Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Allie. This might be a monthly vlog. Like it might be just random bits of my entire month. And I really wanted to read a short story collection and I was torn between a couple, but ultimately Skeleton Crew won because I don't know if you guys have seen the preview for The Monkey coming out, I think in February of next year, but I am so excited. It's of course a Stephen King story, but it's being produced by James Wan, who did like Insidious, The Conjuring, Annabelle, The Nun, so many of my favorites. I think Saw, some of the Saws as well, but also Osgood Perkins. Longlegs, you guys already know I'm excited about that. And although it does come out in February, I just thought this would be a really good time to read this one and to be ahead of the game. This is a really old paperback that I thrifted within the past couple of years, and I just love it. I'm so excited to dive into this. I will be skipping the first story, which is The Mist, because I have read that within the last couple of years. I have it as a novella paperback, and I actually really enjoyed my time with it. I think I gave it 4 stars and loved it so much more than the movie. That movie ending, what was that? But after that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 21? Really? 21 others to get to. I did not know that there's 22 stories in this. Some of them do look rather short though, so we will get to them. But it is a pretty thick one that I think giving it the month is going to be more ideal for me. I wanted to just kind of do a little introduction here, let you guys know I'm reading it, and I'm going to take you guys along with me. And since The Mist is the first one, we can check that off and go straight into the next, which is Here There Be Tygers. So I will fill you guys in on that once I get to that story. And if you didn't know, The Mist is kind of like a horror sci-fi creature type of ordeal where this family gets like stranded after this like weird mist comes over this town, but it's like what's lurking in the mist. And then they get kind of like, the boy and the dad kind of like get stranded in this like convenience store for a little while with a bunch of other people who, like, when you get so desperate and you're like at what you think is the end of your life, like what measures are you going to take and what are you going to do and what are these strangers going to do, you know? So it was a really good one. You should definitely check it out. But yeah, I will check back in, let you guys know what I think of the next. Stay tuned. Hello. I originally started this video so long ago. The plan was to read it back around like October, like spooky season time. And it just really didn't happen. It didn't really meet any of my like TBR goals at the time and everything I had going on. So I kind of just had to keep pushing it off. But ultimately the goal was just to read it and to read it before The Monkey came out this year. I've been so stoked about The Monkey. One, it's a Stephen King story. The concept of it, I love the Jolly Chimp. I've always loved any type of monkey with like the little tambourine hands in movies and stuff like that. I've actually been looking for one for so long and try finding them anywhere at a decent price range. It's insane. And then at that, you're probably going to be welcoming in a cursed object to your house. Also, I'm super excited about the movie because it's Osgood Perkins who directed Longlegs, which was in my top movies from last year. I absolutely loved that movie, still do. It is now February and I have read the first story in this, The Mist, that I mentioned in the last part. And since I left you guys, I have read There Will Be Tygers, which is the next story. I'm like babying this book. It is so worn. It's such a cool addition. they are doing a new print of it with the monkey from like the movie now, and I feel like I need one. But I just love that the monkey is on the cover of this one though. It's so cool. This story, Here There Be Tygers, is about this boy. He's at school and he has to go to the bathroom, and it's really short. It's only like a few pages. It's one of those things when you're in class and you don't want to raise your hand, you don't want to tell the teacher, and he's kind of like getting to like the shaking point, and she was like just being very stern with him and using words like urinate to like embarrass him, and that's like what he was avoiding in the beginning. And he keeps talking about how he doesn't want to go to like this certain room, which ends up being where the bathroom is at, and he's just so nervous about it, doesn't want to go. And when he ends up going and trying to have that courage to go, there is a tiger in the bathroom. It's a short one. There's a lot more to it. I feel like there's a lot of metaphors you can take away from it too. And I had a good time with it. I think I would land at probably around 3 or 4 with that one as far as my like collection ratings go. I feel like if it was any longer, I would be like, okay, you know, but I feel like for the pacing and how short it was like great. Which now leads us to the monkey. I am so excited to not only start this one, I have the next book or story bookmarked because I might read along with this, but I found this really cool like theatrical reading of it on YouTube. So I'm actually going to go and listen to that. And it's one of those like, it's not like a pirate audiobook or anything like that, but it's like an actual like production YouTube or production type company that did the monkey and then posted it to their YouTube. So it's really cool. I started it and like the narration's been great. The sound effects are great. It actually has like the little like symbols going together. It's so cool. But yeah, I'm excited to be back on this journey reading Skeleton Crew with you guys, taking you along with me. I'm gonna go see the monkey.
The awkward silence has a nice. I said I felt a linen in your bed. I sleep so cold, your face so red. I don't need no photo, burn a moment in my head. I don't care at all, can we just break bread? Heard that you were coming through. What if I was on my way to you? What if feelings weren't bulletproof? Fuck around, find out that's not true, cause you put the I in impossible. I think I talk too much, probably cause you said I didn't talk enough. Lying in my bed, little thoughts run up. Trying to make a mess with myself. Maybe you're bad for my health, don't talk enough. Maybe cause you said that I talk too much. Lying in my bed, little thoughts run up. Trying to make a mess with myself. Maybe you're bad for my health, don't. Right there. We can make it up if you fight fair. It doesn't mean that we can kick it at your place. Get stuck in our old ways. No face, a feeling I want chase.
Oh my lord, you guys. Since I have last left you, I did in fact go and see the monkey. It was good. It was good. I think I'm landing at a 4-star. It wasn't a solid 5 for me, but who knows upon rewatch. I loved how creative Osgood got with this as well. There was just parts of it that are too spoilery, unfortunately, to talk about as to why I'm landing at a 4 versus a 5. But I did talk about it in a recent podcast episode, which should already be up. Maybe not. Maybe it's coming soon. But if it is, you guys will get a sneak peek because this is what I just said. Like I mentioned, this past month we went and saw The Monkey in theaters. This is a film directed by Osgood Perkins, and this is when two brothers find a mysterious wind-up monkey. A series of outrageous deaths tear their family apart. 25 years later, the monkey begins a new killing spree, forcing the estranged siblings to confront the cursed toy. I honestly had so much fun watching this movie, and we went to our local AMC theater because, you guys, I had to. Had to get the monkey popcorn bucket, and I love him. Look at the key. I love him so much. It is such good quality too. This is my first popcorn bucket that I bought. It is rather pricey, but so worth it because he now sits on my Stephen King bookshelf. He is just gonna chill right here throughout the episode. Yes, you heard me correctly. If you didn't know already, The Monkey is a short story that was first published as a booklet included in Gallery magazine in 1980 by Stephen King, and then later it was revised and published in Stephen King's Skeleton Crew in 1985. And I have a copy right here of it. This is not a first edition, but it is a rather old, battered paperback that I absolutely adore and love. And it does have the monkey on it, although this is Skeleton Crew. This is a story collection. It has pretty iconic stories throughout. This is what featured The Mist, and The Mist has now been a movie for years, and it is loved, it is hated. Very mixed reviews on that one. And I feel like you could almost say exactly the same for The Monkey. I feel like overall story-wise, people would probably like The Monkey a little bit more. You wouldn't have as many mixed reviews, but you know, there's still those out there that don't really care for cursed objects. The Monkey was nominated for a British Fantasy Award for Best Short Story in 1982 and Best Horror at that time, which is really, really cool. I, of course, have read The Monkey and I absolutely loved it. We follow Hal, which you also follow in the movie. He is the main character, but we get to know where this monkey came from. It was one of the treasures his dad, who was gone all the time, brings home. And it kind of sticks very true to the movie. Without spoilers, the movie does, I feel like, spend more time with Hal as a small child versus the short story does, with how many pages are in this, like, I would say like 30-page short story. Hal and his brother are seeing the real life horrors of twisting up this key on this monkey and seeing the deaths that are occurring. The story then jumps to future Hal with his now son Petey, and this monkey that they thought they got rid of is somehow back and tormenting and causing all of these deaths once again. And while I will give it to Osgood Perkins that I do feel like he stuck really closely to the short story in some senses, in some aspects, these like outrageous killings and gory, gruesome scenes were incredible. It's just kind of a silly good time. What I will say is, from the advertisement, which is always amazing, if you are like me and you love Osgood Perkins, you loved Longlegs, and that was just phenomenally done. I was so excited that he got his hands on the monkey, and I think he executed it so well when it comes to the gore, the gruesome moments, taking such a morbid story and making it something fun instead of just dark. I loved that about it. I will say it does teeter into a little bit more silly than what I would have liked it to, because I felt like the short story itself had those dark moments to him, but it also was kind of like a wholesome father-son story at the same time. I feel like that kind of played into the movie, but also teetered in directions that I wasn't really a big fan of. Hal does have a twin brother, and I'm usually not really a fan of the trope of having the twin siblings. I feel like this short story did amazing with that. With having twins, it did amazing. If they were, I think he just called him his brother. I don't even know if they were twins in the short story. I can't remember correctly. But I normally don't mind twins in a story if it's done correctly. But if it's this overused trope or moment, it's hard to talk about without spoilers. But if you see it, you understand what I mean, I'm sure. Those aspects and part of where the story went didn't leave me at a complete 5-star with the movie like I am with the short story, but it's still such a fun time. And I will say the advertisements, while they were amazing, like I said, what I will say about it is the advertising of this makes it seem like it's so gory and gruesome, and it's just splatterpunk over and over and over again. That's what the whole movie is going to be. There's not going to be any like death to these characters or death to the story. It's just going to be these deaths over and over again. And although he did have a lot of really creative deaths in this movie, I really feel like he really dived into the story and made it more detailed. I felt like watching it, I was like, oh, there's a lot more of the plot going on here than what I suspected seeing the trailer and advertisements for this. So I really did appreciate that. So yeah, today I filmed a Hella Spooky episode and I recreated my look that I wore to the movies to see the monkey because I ended up getting ready out at my grandparents' house, so I didn't really have time. Time kind of got away from me. I didn't have time to film there. And then by the time we seen the movie and got out, it was dark. So I was like, okay, we got home, I was exhausted. So yeah, now I'm sitting down and actually filming this. I hope that my review in the podcast episode really summed it up for you guys on how I feel about not only the short story, The Monkey, but also the movie and kind of like how I compared them a little bit. Again, it's so hard to do that without spoiling anything. And obviously I want you guys to be able to experience that and to see them. But if you've read both, I'm sure you understand where I'm coming from. Whether you agree or not, you might be able to be like, okay, I get what she's saying. Like she didn't like this about the movie and like the way it went in the short story more. But yeah, that is where I'm currently at. And I just filmed a whole episode on cursed objects. So stay tuned for that or go check it out if it's already up. Since then, we went out of town this past weekend and I picked up a copy of the new cover of Skeleton Crew with the new monkey on it. Oh, and I also, yes, in fact, snagged the monkey popcorn bucket, and he is so cool. I am working my butt off on my Stephen King shelf upstairs too, so I will show you guys that. The progress that I've made. It is looking so good. It's a little book heavy on the bottom, but I am absolutely loving all the creative little pieces that are coming together. It's just forming together and it just looks so good. I'm loving it. But yeah, I am excited to jump back into Skeleton Crew. My next one is Cain Rose Up. And I've heard that this is a really heavy one. I've heard that it is kind of like Rage, his book that is banned and that he himself has taken off shelves. That one was about a school shooting, and I believe this one is about a shooting on a college campus. So that's gonna be rather heavy, but I am excited to jump back into this collection, and I'm excited that I'm not going to have to keep flipping through this one because I'm so afraid I'm gonna rip the cover or break the spine even more. So I'm going to be mainly reading from this one here on out. This is the look. I use the God and Monsters palette. It's kind of hard with my bangs in the way. From Rebel Rouge Labs. It's beautiful. And then my L'Oreal lipstick that I literally wear like every day at this point. It's my go-to brown. You guys can check out that podcast episode for all the makeup details as well. But yeah, I feel so accomplished today. Getting back into the podcast has been so much fun and nerve-wracking. I've been so jittery and nervous today every time I'm filming these because I haven't posted my first one back yet. I'm pre-filming so many of them so that whenever I jump back into it, I have them set for weeks, but I'm so nervous to get them out there and post them. So if I have started posting Hella Spooky again, I would love for you guys to go check it out. It is a love of mine. I love podcasting so much. It's been 2 years and I've always been so hard on myself about it. And I think that's why it's taken me this long to jump back into my podcast. But yeah, I have Hella Spooky, which I film on the whim of whatever I'm wanting to talk about. And I also have Caffeine and Crime, which is like true crime. So if you're not into that, you won't like it. But I have many seasons of that from years past. And it's also been about 2 years since I've jumped back into that one. So I feel like I'm finally at a point with my mental health where I feel like I can. And I'm having so much fun diving back in. That is my update. I will let you guys know when I've read another from this.
Took your photo off the wall. Can we set that shit aside? Swallow all my pride. I've been staying up and feeling bad.
Had to see what coming through. What if I was on my way to you? What if feelings weren't bulletproof?
Fucked around, found out that's not true. Cause you put the I in impossible. I think I talk too much. Probably cause you said I didn't talk enough. Lying in my bed, letting thoughts run up. Trying to make amends with myself. Maybe you're bad for my health, so I'm talking enough. Maybe cause you said that I talk too much. Lying in my bed, letting thoughts run up. Trying to make amends with myself. Maybe the problem is you. Baby, it's you. Baby, it's you.
Finally back at it, reading from Skeleton Crew, and I thought it was time for a check-in because I've read the last 3 stories. I briefly mentioned Cain Rose Up in the last clip, and it was a college campus shooting. So not my all-time favorite story. I feel like it's a little too intense for this day and age. I can definitely understand the wow factor back then of being like, whoa, what did I just read? But yeah, hit a little too close to home with what I feel like our generation's experience with school shootings. And although I can grasp the terror and horror of a realistic story, at the same time, I kind of am trying to steer clear of those at the moment. So yeah, it wasn't as hard-hitting for me. I don't even know what to rate this one because it's not that it was horrible, but at the same time, we just follow this guy who you can kind of sense he just thinks his life is kind of lousy and he is not really a fan of anyone. And it kind of segues a lot. So it's kind of hard to explain, but it just kind of segues to not really the why, but just what he's doing. Not really any background information, and it abruptly ends. So it's just a little bit of a confusing one. I don't know, it's really hard to put a rating on that. The next 2 though, I was so invested. I had such a good time with both of them. The first one is Mrs. Todd's Shortcut. This one gave me the same feelings I had reading Rose Matter. Reading a story, Rose Matter is a little different because it's a lot heavier and there's more violence and stuff in that. It was one of the first times I went from reading his horror to reading something that was kind of like genre bending in a way of having this fantasy aspect to it or sci-fi aspect to it, that I kind of had the same feeling with this one. These 2 men are in town sitting down, like just talking with each other, having this conversation, and this woman walks up and he's like, oh yeah, that's Mrs. Todd, Mr. Todd's, wife, well, his second wife. Let me tell you about his first wife. And then he starts talking about his first wife, Ophelia, I think was her name. And she had this really fast sports car and her favorite thing to do was drive. And this takes place in Maine, like so many of his books. It's where Stephen King is from and lives. This guy, writing this short story, he had to have went all over the place in Maine, and the research for it, which he probably already knew these roads really well, but some of it is just like a complete info dump of this Ophelia talking about how she's finding from point A to point B the fastest route, and she's taking all of these different routes to try to find the fastest one. And at first they make sense, but over time, they're starting to not add up. And it's like, how is she getting to point A and point B? And then strange things are happening. One day she says, I'm leaving this place. I'll be, if you can meet me at my house. And he's like, okay, so, I need to finish this up and then head over. It'll be about 45 minutes and, you know, I'll be there before her. And she gets there first and it's like half the time. He's like, there's no possible way she could have gotten from point A to point B that fast. And it's almost like a slip in reality, or kind of like what it calls it in here is kind of like these holes that you're going through until one day Ophelia is just missing and gone. Before she's gone, she starts coming back and looking younger. There's so many layers of the story that at first I was like, oh, this kind of sounds like it's gonna be boring, but I was so invested and was like, what is going on? This is so cool. It's either a high 4 or a 5 star. And then the last one I read is the Jaunt. The date in this, I believe, says the Jaunt was invented in October 19th, 1988. Working of teleportation. So the Jaunt is a invention of teleportation, but this is a story of a family who are traveling to Mars. It's pretty much like global warming has gotten worse. The world is just, Earth is just like at a crisis state where we need more resources. We need clean water. We need so much. And so this teleportation device was invented so that we could travel to different places and be able to get those resources. And this family is traveling to Mars and they're getting ready to go in the Jaunt to go to Mars. And the wife is kind of anxious and the kids are kind of like excited, but like kind of scared at the same time. And he's like, it's not a big deal. And he's trying to like calm them down. So he starts talking to them about like the Jaunt and like the man who created it, why he created it. Also like the testing, like putting objects in it to see like if it would work and teleport them from point A to point B. And it's just so cool, like the hiccups that they had, the reasons why they had the hiccups. And not just that, but like the ending, mind blown. I loved it so much. 5 stars. It was so good. Such a cool little sci-fi short story that is also laced with horror and honestly did like not really full on scare me, but I was just like, oh my gosh, chills. Like that is such a cool story. And thinking back at this time of when this was written and thinking like that's where the world would be so much more advanced even in that time is a really cool concept too. I am back after reading 4 more stories from this, and I'm not gonna lie, they are, although I actually did give I think 2 of them 4 stars, they're starting to go downhill for me. We have slurs, which I'm not a fan of. We also have a lot of female degrading. Just in almost every single one of these next stories I read, there was a just male character who was just degrading a female by her looks, her weight, and even personality. And it's not got me feeling great today. First up is the wedding gig. This follows a guy who is working kind of like at this jazz bar place, and this guy tells him, I need to talk to you outside, and tells him, I'm hiring you for my sister's wedding. Doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but he's pretty much being threatened that this is a serious thing. Do not laugh at me. Do not laugh at my family. And so we're starting to get the vibes that this is a more serious matter. As he goes to the wedding, we realize that this is more of a like mob mentality. And I really wanted this to work. I think the idea of them kind of being like a jazz band, a wedding band is kind of silly, and this whole thing being a wedding gig. But I thought what would really work for me was the fact that it's kind of like a mob, ends up being like this whole like mob fight, gunfight type of ordeal within a mob that I really liked from it. But what I hated was the slurs. The bride was just like, I mean, there was nasty comments about the groom as well, but it was just so degrading how nasty these characters are talking about that I just ended up giving it a 2. Like, I feel like kind of it was a waste of time. The next one was Paranoid, the Chant, I believe is what it was called. If I can get to it, I can kind of show you what I'm talking about. It is almost like a poem style. It was very short. I ended up giving it a 3. I don't think it was life-changing. I don't think it was incredible, but I also didn't mind it. This is just a poem where you're in somebody's head. Here it is. Literally so short. And then one more page. And like split up into, you know, small paragraphs. Very easy, fast-paced to read. I didn't mind it. You were just in somebody's head who is extremely paranoid. I feel like that's the best I can give you without spoiling it. I feel like even that's spoiling it because it's just paranoid thoughts. The next one, The Raft, I actually was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to love this. It's coming back. It's going to be so good. If you have the audiobook, this one is narrated by Stephen King himself, which was pretty cool. Oh, I liked so much about this story. This is about these kids, or I guess you could say teenagers or young adults, somewhere in that. They're talking about this abandoned raft that's out on the water and how it's still out there. It's the end of the summertime. And they're talking about like, yeah, everybody's too lazy to get it. Like once the water starts freezing, somebody will finally be like, oh yeah, I need to clean that up. And they're like, why don't we just go and do it? So they go and they jump in the water and they get to the raft. And then that's when they realize that there's this huge circular black thing in the water. They describe it as looking like a black checkered piece. And it's just kind of like a blob, like almost like it's a black checker piece that they also think might just be like an oil spill. It's just like a blob, and it turns into this horror of like it consuming them. I loved it, absolutely loved it. But then we get into this really weird headspace of the boy who is just kind of like, you have one boy who is there with this girl, but like he likes the other guy's girl, and that was kind of like icky for me. But again, it's just kind of like, okay, I don't like that character. I don't like the way he is thinking and like the personality he has. But then the other one is just like so aggressive the whole time, like imagining himself like smacking one of the women or hurting them in some type of way because it would feel so good, and like that type of saying I'm like, I don't like. There's also a explicit sex scene between two of them, and she flat out says no. And the whole idea of like the no consent there, obviously, like, and they're together. It's the ones that are actually together. So it's kind of the idea of like she's saying no because there's this blob around them that she's terrified of, and he even tries to reassure her like, oh, it's fine, I can keep an eye on it. And then they proceed. But like, no means no. I do have to keep in mind when this book was read, I think reading it with a new cover and a new edition is like so challenging for me to wrap my brain around it, that like this is one of his older works. So that is why it does have slurs. That is why it does have these just characters that I just hate so much. If you've been around my channel, you've noticed that with me, that I just have such a hard time with mostly his male characters. I ended up giving that one a 4. That one would have been a 5 for me if it wasn't for just the cringy parts that like were so unnecessary. Word Processor of the Gods was the last one I read. And kind of the same ordeal. This one would have been a 5 for me if it was not for the way this guy thinks about others. You have this man who is very unhappy with his life. He hates his wife. He degrades her, talks about how fat and ugly she is. And sure, she's not a very likable person, but like, can we just stop with like the body shaming? Oh my God. He also does not like his son. He is a troubled kid that's in a band and is loud and not for him. And he is so jealous of his drunk brother who has the perfect, gorgeous wife and the smart and amazing kid. And like already let that sink in, but his brother gets in an accident and it kills the entire family. So his brother, his brother's wife, who he likes, and the nephew kills them. Then he is gifted a word processor that his nephew built him before he died. And it ends up being a magical one where whatever you type and then delete actually deletes it from the world. Whatever you type and enter on is what happens in the world. So you kind of in a spoilery way, you can kind of think about what in his life he would like to have deleted and what in his life he would like to have. I think the whole play on a word processor, if you didn't know, these were like typewriters almost that looked more in the style of like the old like clunky computers. So instead of like the typewriter keyboard, you had like an actual computer keyboard, but they looked more like a typewriter. The whole idea of that being set in this time, it really does show the time, and I like that. I like when there's elements that's like reading a book that is set in the 90s, where this is set during the time it was written, and that's what they had. They didn't have, let's say, a cell phone or like other technologies, an iPad and like other technologies and stuff like that we have now, but they did have a word processor, and that was so cool then. So to make a horror story off of it is really cool. Just like anything from like the 90s or 80s or whatever, whenever it's mentioned in a story, it really puts you into that time period, and I love that about a story. But also making a horror out of something that's so like, something so simple being put into a horror, I think is really cool. Oh my lord, do not mind my appearance. Little Moon had a vet appointment, and he screamed the whole way there in like his little pet carrier. It was so sad. And then on the way home literally pissed himself. So yeah, that's why I have changed. I had to come home and give him a bath, and yeah. So that took a lot out of me. Then after dinner, cause like we just ordered takeout, I literally just went into the biggest food coma, and like I was like, you guys, I gotta go to bed. Like I can't do this. And then I went in there to lay down, and then Moon, bless his heart, I love him, but oh my God, starts hacking. He has a hairball, and like he will not just get it out, and every time it, TMI, but every time it gets close, it's like he just takes it back in. I'm like, dude, just spit it out at this point. Like, can I just sleep? Okay, so I got to a point where I was so frustrated that I literally just got up, and here I am. It's the middle of the night. I have swept and mopped just about all my floors. But I've been listening to Skeleton Crew, so don't mind the appearance. These are just stories that like I don't want to forget by tomorrow, details that I want to say now, like while my brain is like fresh on these stories. So where I left off was The Man Who Would Not Shake Hands. I gave this one 4 stars. This one was about, I gotta be a little vague to not spoil. This one is about a group of guys having a poker game, and one of them there's kind of making jokes about because he refuses to shake people's hands. He will not touch people, he will not shake their hands, and the reveal to all of this is what landed me at a 4. The only reason it wasn't a 5 for me was it was one of his more wordier ones, which means for me, when I say they're wordy, I'm meaning they were a little boring for me. Like I just felt like it was more than I needed for the story. Next up was Beachworld, which once again, it got docked points, or stars, because again, I just kind of felt bored with it, and I hate it because the concept of it is really cool. This is about these two guys, and it's supposed to be like in the future, but you got to think like this was written, I keep saying this was written, but a long time ago, but then I'm not giving you guys like a date. 1985, but you got to think like that's when this published. But some of these stories might have been written before that, different times, because it's, you know, a short story collection. But what I will say is it just mentions like the future and how like the last of the Beach Boys have died, and this guy is just like obsessed with the Beach Boys, and so we know it's in the future, but we don't know when. They have some type of like aircraft, and they actually like wreck on this beach world. It's a world, it's like sand dunes. There's just sand and nothing else. And one of them kind of has more of the idea of like, we got to survive. Like, let's stay at the ship. Like, let's make sure we're drinking, we're eating, you know, people will come and find us. Or the other one is just kind of slowly like falling into insanity and just losing his mind. And later in the story, there's like more to it that leads like almost a little like sci-fi. I had a fun time with it, but I am landing at a 3 with this one. It's kind of one of those stories where like you're listening and then you're like, wait, what? And then you have to like go back 30 seconds and like listen to it again. And I had to kept doing that because some parts were so wordy or so slow that I was like, come on, let's get with it. But once it did, it was good. This is my little monster lately. Like, she has been insane. Every video, every time I hit record, she just starts running laps. Girl. And there's people asleep in bed right now, and this girl's running laps around the house. Reaper's Image was the next story, and I rather like this one. I'm a thrifter, and this is about like this antique, I can't remember, was it an antique store? I think so, or museum, something like that. But we follow these two people. This guy is showing this other guy through the museum these different like artifacts and like antiques and stuff like that. And one of them happens to be a mirror. And the whole idea of this is that people who have looked in this mirror or have stood in front of this mirror have vanished and disappeared. It was a really good one. Still a little wordy and a little slow, but I did land at 4 stars with it. Nona, I think is how you pronounce this one. Nona, I liked, but we are once again back at slurs, and I wasn't a fan of that, so I did dock some there. This is about a guy. It starts off at a bar, and he sees the most beautiful girl to him, and she picks up a conversation with him, like wanting him to give her a ride. And he was like, well, you know, like, you've caught me on like my worst day. And like, he pretty much tells her his life story in like a few sentences, and it's pretty much just like, my whole life is over. Like, he really is like at rock bottom. And so she's like, that's not a problem. And then right after that, he gets into a bar fight, and she's like encouraging him and egging him on, and he already has this like dark side of him. So the whole story is him just making these really poor choices and her egging him on while he is committing these crimes and unalivings. And again, another incredible reveal at the end, which we kind of have a little bit of insight in towards the beginning, but it was still such a fun ride to get there, minus the slurs and the like moments that were just so like unnecessary. Landing at a 3 with that one. Next, there was For Owen. I had to go back and find it. It's literally only like 2 pages. I don't feel like I'm going to rate this one. For Owen, if you didn't know, his son's name is Owen, one of them. And it literally starts with, walking to school, you asked me what other schools have grades. But then it goes on and they talk about Fruit Street, where they start describing different people as different fruits. And yeah, it's just kind of like, I think, a sweet little moment between him and his son when his son was young. That is sweet, but it's again one of those that I don't really know like how to rate it, because it just kind of is, if anything, almost in like the format as like a poem. The next one though is Survivor Type. This is where I think I left off. And this one was another good one. I'm kind of having a hard time right now figuring out where I'm landing with it. This is about a corrupt surgeon. He is on a ship that wrecks, and he ends up stranded on an island, and he is writing down diary style his life accounts, like his time in med school and like what happened to him, how he became corrupt and started abusing drugs and using them to make money, and his plans that didn't go the way he wanted them to, hence the whole, shipwreck ordeal. But it's also kind of reminds me of Beachworld, because you're just in the mind of this person, and many, many more of Stephen King's reads. You've probably read a bunch. If you've read Stephen King, you've probably read a bunch where you're just in the mind of somebody who is like losing it, like The Shining, Gerald's Game. It's kind of like, it almost feels like a one setting, and you're just in their mindless consciousness of them just rambling on and on about things. Although it does have like diary entries as he's writing them, there's also stuff that happens on this island that he's trying to survive, because he wants to pay back the people who he thinks ruined his career. And so almost he's using like the rage for revenge to survive, and he's gonna go to all measures to survive. And there's body horror in it. It's really gruesome and gross, and yeah, a lot going on with it. But I don't know. I think I'm landing at another 3, maybe 4, like 6 more stories to go. So I want to load up my dishwasher and clean up my mop bucket and stuff. So I'm going to continue listening, but I will check in with you guys tomorrow, and we might be wrapping up this video. You guys know the drill. My cats are playing and being loud, so we're gonna ignore that. But I do have a check-in for you guys because I've read some more. First one being Uncle Otto's Truck. This is a story about this guy's uncle who, it's hard because I don't want to give too much away. Have kind of like the nephew's point of view of kind of telling a story about like his uncle and his truck, and kind of like how, well, I guess from both points of view, like how obsessed he is. Something tragic happened involving the truck that it ends up being one of those stories where it's almost like a cursed moment because of something so evil happening. And I really liked it. I've never read Christine. It's still like on the TBR. It's a Stephen King one I need to get to, but I feel like this one probably has that type of vibe in a sense. But more than anything, it's another story about insanity. And I just loved all of that kind of mixed together, but it's definitely one to go into to get all the reveals for yourself. But I did land at a 4-star. Then I read Morning Deliveries, Milkman #1, and Big Will's A Tale of the Laundry Game, Milkman 2. The first one I gave 4 stars. I really liked it. This is kind of just talks about the milkman, and like, it's shorter than the next one, but it's just kind of a fun story of him being a menace, but like evil. It almost reminded me of Grady. I believe that was his name, from the Mr. Mercedes. So kind of like, sick. But doing these things to milk and deliveries and stuff for people that have mistreated him or have done something, maybe not even mistreated him, but like done something that like he doesn't like. For instance, one of them sent out a note saying, "No, thank you, we don't need anything today," and he left like something poisoned. Like it's a messed up short story, but nonetheless, I had a fun time with it. And I did land at 4 stars with it. But the next one, we follow these guys that work in laundry, and they're just very vile people. They're getting drunk the entire story. They're saying slurs. They're talking, the main guy, he's like talking down on his wife nonstop, just like so awful. And on top of that, he's figuring out that maybe she's leaving him for the milkman. So Needless to say, it spirals into him harming her and then being chased down, so he thinks. They're drunk and they're driving, and it's a lot of mixed emotions with that one. And a lot of it just seemed very wordy, more rambly in points of stuff that like I just didn't care to know because I hated being in these guys' minds so much. That I think I'm landing at another 2 or maybe a 3. But Gramma changed the game for me. This is the next story. This is about a grandmother, and we are learning from the kid's point of view, which I love. Not always, but like a lot of the time I love that because it's unreliable, and the entire time he thinks his grandma is like, I don't know, it's kind of like one of those movies where they have like the old people like losing it and like kind of intense and creepy, and he thinks that his grandma is out to get him, but like since it's coming from a kid, it's almost like an unreliable narrator, so like you don't know, like, is she actually, or is it just he's freaked himself out to the point to where he thinks she is. But overall, the story in general was so creepy, so good. I was so invested the entire time. Ended up 5 stars. I have 2 more stories to go today, and I'm on the road. I am traveling for another book event. You guys will see the video soon. But I want to finish Skeleton Crew today, so I'm going to take you guys along with me for, I guess, a little bit of it. We'll probably have a car update and a car outro. But this video has been long. The short story collection has been so daunting to get through, and I have so many thoughts. I'm hoping I will be able to put them together in the car for you guys to be able to end out the vlog. If not, then you guys will see my face another day for this video, but that is my check-in for now.
Put out your fire and put it on me. Can't tell if I'm tired or this a more swing. Love the awkward silence, how's a nice I said I fell and landed in your bed. I sleep so cold, your face so red. I don't need no photo, burn a moment in my head. I don't care at all, can we just break bread?
Heard that you were coming through. What if I was unwilling you? What if feelings were...
Okay, so I agree, horrible angle, but I just made it to my destination. So I wanted to check in really quick because I read the last 2 in this collection. The Ballad of the Flexible Bullet is literally about a guy with paranoia about literally everything. Editor for a paper in fiction, and that's being taken away from him because he reads this story and he becomes so obsessed, but he's also just so anxious and paranoid about so much in life. A lot of it has to do with electric and like radiation. Like he's afraid. He's one of those people that like has so many like OCD tendencies and stuff, but this goes all the way to like insanity. We're seeing a repetition of that in this collection. I landed at a 3 with it. It was very wordy. It was very long. I'm not gonna lie, I got bored at times, but nonetheless, I still enjoyed some of it. And then the last one was The Reach. I landed at a 4 with this one. I think it was beautifully written. This is about pretty much like an island that has like a big body of water between it, obviously it's an island, and to the mainland. But it's like one of those where it's almost reminded me of movies and shows where they're very secluded and don't really get to go to the mainland. And it talks about this woman who is elderly and she has never been on the mainland, and she talks about like why, like she's always been comfortable and happy and she feels no need, and they're like, but grandma, you've never been to the mainland. She's like, no. And it's pretty much like her entire life building up to that. I thought it was going to be a little bit more, I don't know, spooky, like something was going to happen with the Reach, is what they call the body of water between the two, but nothing ever came of it. It ended up, I mean, yeah, some people would probably think it's still spooky. It had paranormal vibes, and I had a good time with it. So all in all, there's a couple that I didn't end up rating in this collection. I did rate as many as I could, and I landed with, from what I rated, 1 2-star, 6 3-stars, 9 4-stars, and 4 5-stars. So I am pretty happy with that. The monkey, I think, is still my favorite in this collection. And I'm sorry to do this outro in my car, but I know I just want to get this video done because I'm officially done with this collection. I had a really good time with it. There are a lot of stories, a lot of patterns of paranoia, anxiety, insanity, everything in between. But I had a great time with it, and I'm excited for my event tonight, so I'm going to let you guys go so I can go get in line. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much if you've watched. Let me know in the comments which short story from this collection is your favorite, or if you've read it. And I will see you in my next video.
That's not true, 'cause you put the I in impossible. I think I talk too much, probably 'cause you said I didn't talk enough.